right, I know it's a little before noon, but we're just gonna kind of do a prep work now before I get started with the introduction. Welcome, my name is Keri, and welcome to our DIY Crafternoon. We're doing our Tassel Keychains today. So we'll get started with the instruction in a minute, but if you're on and you want to start prepping, you're going to need to cut your embroidery thread or embroidery floss into about 1.5 feet lengths. So I have a whole bunch cut here. Mine's probably a little less than 1.5 feet. But I have it cut, these colors cut and laid out. And I'm going to do one more color because some of my embroidery floss that I used was pretty thin. So I'm just gonna, that's what I'm gonna do until we start instructing, is I'm going to cut my thread or wind my thread so I can cut it. So I'm gonna unwind this first and then wind it the way I want to cut it. You should have all gotten, if you picked up a kit from the Franklin Public Library, you should have all gotten 4 colors of embroidery floss. If you didn't get 4, and you have some laying around the house, I would suggest going and getting 2 more colors, because you're going to need a good thick amount of embroidery floss for your tassel to look full. Also, if you didn't get 4 and you just want to watch the instruction and come in and grab 2 more, you may do that as well, and then do the craft later on. There's a lot of this one. All right, I finally unwound it all. Okay, so if any of you are just joining us now, the first thing we're doing is prepping our embroidery floss, and we want to make it about 1.5 foot lengths of floss. So what I'm going to do is just a kind of by eye, just kind of flip it so that then I can just cut the loops at each end and lay it out. So you're going to want to do this with all of your floss. We're going to make it roughly the same length, and then you're going to lay your floss in the color arrangement that you want it to be. Okay, well, I think it's officially noon. So I want to welcome everybody to the DIY virtual Crafternoon. It's for sure noon because I hear the bell outside here in Franklin. Thanks for coming. We're doing our Tassel Keychains today. I'm Keri, and I'm here with you every week this summer. So the first thing that we were doing, if you logged in a bit early, is we were prepping our embroidery floss. Embroidery floss. I have trouble with that word for some reason, or those 2 words. So you want to make it about 1.5 feet long, and I just did end over end, and now I'm going to cut where my loops are so that I have my strands. Other end, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna end up cutting the ends so that they're nice and even and at the end of the craft anyway, so just pretty close but not perfect. All right, so then once you do that for all of your strands, you're gonna lay them out in the color like pattern that you want. So I have a number of colors here just because I was kind of using up some scrap floss, so they weren't full skeins, not skeins, but full pieces of it. I'm not sure what the technical term is for one floss thing. So they weren't full, so I used multiple colors, but you should have gotten 4 if you did the craft kit, or if you looked at the supply list online, it said to use 4 of the embroidery floss, 4 colors. So I'm just kind of laying it down, and I'm going to set that off to the side then once I have that done. So if you're following along, this step kind of takes a lot more time. So you can always come back and rewatch the video if I get ahead of where you're at. So I've got my strands cut about a foot and a half. I'm going to set them aside. Okay. Now we're going to take your white piece of embroidery thread that you had in your kit. Mine's super long. I cut mine really long. Yours isn't this long. So we're going to take that, and then you're going to take your little lobster clasp that you had in your kit as well. Now, we're going to be tying it around this end. So we're going to fold it in half, like I did. Fold it in half. And then we're going to loop it through the clasp with the loop end first. And then we're going to take this end, the end with the 2 ends, I guess, with the 2 cut ends. And we're going to loop it through the loop and pull it so that it looks like such. Okay. Now, if you want an easier length to work with, you can cut it. We're going to be putting our beads on next. So mine is ridiculously long, so I'm going to cut it, and we're going to set that aside because we are going to use the leftover white string floss again. So set that aside once you cut it down a little. And now we are going to put on our beads. So you should have gotten about 4 or 5 beads in your kit. If you are doing it with supplies from home, you should grab about 4 or 5 beads. And you can really put them on in whatever order you want. So I'm going to thread them through the white, both pieces of your floss. So you want to make sure both of them get in there, thread them through. And hopefully all the beads will go through your floss. Sometimes the beads have smaller holes, and sometimes they're not all made uniformly in the package. And sometimes they're just not easy to get through. Like this one is challenging me. So I kind of like roll the 2 threads together so that maybe they'll go through a little easier. I just need them to get through. These wooden beads are a little harder, but they're really cool, so gotta just be a little patient with them. If you have like a needle or something, which I do not have with me, you can kind of use that to poke it through as well. On the first sample that I made, which I forgot to show you guys, but you can probably see sitting here. On this one that I made, I kind of had to use like a needle to poke the thread through the beads. I may have to give up on this one. And that's okay. You can give up on it. No one will know. Let's try this one. This one looks even smaller. I should have grabbed a needle, but I wasn't thinking. Yep, that one's not going to go through. And if you need to, if it gets frayed, just cut off the ends. And it's not gonna hurt anything if it's shorter. I'm gonna try this one more time. Just need a little bit of it to get through to the other end, and then I could get it out. All right. It's so close. It's so close. I have nothing. Oh well. I don't think my scissors will poke it through either because I think it's too wide. This will give you guys a chance to catch up if you're cutting your embroidery thread. Oh! It came through! Yay! See, persistence, perseverance, right? Okay. And so if your beads don't want to go through, you can just set them aside and maybe come back to them. So once you have your beads on, oh my goodness. That's when we are going to take our embroidery thread that we have pre-cut. Okay. And we're gonna take this and spread apart the two pieces of embroidery thread, the white embroidery thread. Then we're gonna take our cut pieces of colored embroidery thread, and we are going to wrap the white around roughly the middle of your colored embroidery thread, and you're going to tie a number of knots so that it's nice and secure and tight. I like doing 3. As tight as you can, right in the middle. Okay. So then you should be able to take it, kind of shake it out a little bit, comb it through. You should be able to hide the rest of your white strand in there. Otherwise, you can also cut it. Your choice. I'm just going to try and hide it. Comb it out a little bit. Kind of get the colors looking how you want them to look in your tassel, because our next step is going to be cinching it. Oops, that guy came out. And that'll happen. So kind of spread it out so that you can't see your tie where you tied it with the white embroidery thread. Spread it out a little bit. And then we're going to neatly comb it down and squeeze it about right here. We're going to take some of our extra white that we had cut off from before, and we're going to cinch it here with another knot. So again, tie it 2 to 3 times, nice and tight as you can. Now cut your excess. Okay. Now, you should also have a strip of gold embroidery thread in your kit. So we're gonna wrap that around the cinch that we made to make it look pretty. So you're going to, I just do like one quick knot here to keep it in place. And then I just kind of wrap. So I wrap one side and then I wrap another side, and then we're going to tie another tiny little knot. We're going to make our knot as tiny as we can when we're done. So wrap one side of your thread around your white floss that you just cinched with, and then wrap the other one. Cover up that whole, that white piece of floss. Okay. And then nice and tight, you want to make sure you wrap it really tight, and then you're going to hold on to it and you're going to make a knot. We're going to try and make it as inconspicuous as possible when we're finished so that nobody can really see it. And again, I would tie it at least 2 times, if not 3. 3 might be a little too much for this one because you can see it more. Yep, 2 should do it. So then I'm going to cut off the excess. Now, if you really wanted extra security for that knot, you could add a little dab of either like super glue or hot glue, and that would keep that knot from coming undone. So the last thing that we have to do, we are almost finished, once we have our gold floss on there, is cutting it so that it's nice and uniform. Now, I cut mine, as you can see, my original sample that I did when I was working on this, I cut mine pretty short. You could cut it longer. I kind of like it this length, so I'm going to keep it about the same length, but we're going to kind of comb it out again. And then we're going to give it a haircut. Comb it down again, make sure there's no stragglers. I've got some curly floss in here, but well, maybe I'll cut a little bit more, a little more even. I'm not the straightest cutter in the world. A lot of my stuff is always crooked. And there you have it. We've got our tassel keychain. And that's it. If you weren't able to completely follow along with this, know that it's always up here on Facebook. You can always return to it for a reference. And if for some reason there was a part missing in your kit, come on into the library and I can give you those extra missing pieces. But other than that, that is it for our DIY virtual Crafternoon tassel keychains today. And just a reminder, next week we have twine bowls, and I did my sample already and it looks really cool. The kits are available now at the information desk, so you can come on in and pick it up. And next week, Wednesday at noon, we will be learning how to make those twine bowls. So I hope you guys enjoyed our tassel keychain today, and I hope to see you next week. Have a good day.